You know that feeling, right? Staring at a rejection letter from a top journal after all that hard work. It's tough. But what if you could get inside the minds of the editors before you even start writing? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're pulling back the curtain on some amazing advice direct from the Academy of Management Journal to build a blueprint for research that really gets noticed and, gets published.
It's the big question, isn't it? You pour months, maybe even years into a project, and you're sure it's great, only for it to get turned down. But here's the thing. The fate of your paper is often sealed way, way before you type a single word. So what's going wrong right at the very beginning?
Well, the editors themselves give us a pretty big clue. They say that while everyone kind of knows the core elements of good research, most projects just fail to address them in enough depth. They're not thinking about it systematically. And the result? A submission that just doesn't clear the bar. But the good news is, this is totally avoidable. So, how do we avoid these classic mistakes? The editors offer up this really powerful metaphor. Think of your research not as a paper, but as a puzzle. Every single piece has to be shaped just right and placed perfectly for that final picture to come together. Let's take a look at the blueprint they've given us to solve it. The very first piece of that puzzle, and you could argue it's the most important one, is your topic. According to the editors, picking the right topic doesn't just help a little, it creates this incredible momentum that can literally carry your project all the way to publication. Okay, so what makes for a winning topic? What's the secret sauce? Well, the editors point to 5 key criteria that every great research topic seems to have. First up is significance. This is all about tackling what they call grand challenges. It's not enough to just fill some tiny little gap in the literature. A truly significant topic helps solve a piece of a much larger, more important puzzle, and it pushes the whole field forward. Second, you need novelty. Think of all scientific work as one big, ongoing conversation. The question is, does your topic just add one more quiet voice to the background chatter, or does it make everyone in the room stop and turn their heads? Because the conversation is suddenly going in a totally new and exciting direction. That's the goal. The third ingredient is curiosity. See, a novel topic might get a reader's attention for a second, but a curious one holds it. The best topics are kind of like a great mystery novel. You don't know the answer on page 1. It makes the reader challenge their own assumptions and makes them desperate to find out what happens next. And this leads to a really crucial shift in thinking. Most of us are trained in what you could call gap spotting, just finding a small, unfilled hole in the research. But what the editors are pushing for is mystery solving. Instead of just filling a gap, you start with something that is genuinely puzzling, something that our current theories just can't explain. That right there, that's the source of real, compelling curiosity. Number 4 is scope. You can have the best idea in the world, but it can be totally undermined if your study is just too small. The editors have this great warning against salami slicing your data, trying to get a bunch of small papers out of one project. The real goal should be one great paper that is ambitious and really covers the topic from all angles. And finally, we have actionability. At the end of the day, does this research actually matter outside of the university? A topic is actionable if it gives useful insights to managers, organizations, or policymakers, especially if it deals with things that they can actually control and change. Okay, so let's say you've done it. You've picked a topic that's significant, novel, curious, broad, and actionable. What now? Well, now we shift gears from the what to the how. How do we actually build a paper that reviewers and editors simply can't ignore? To tackle that problem of projects not being systematic enough, the editors came up with a really practical tool. It's a blueprint, a map, that helps you think through and connect every part of your study before you get lost in all the details. And here it is, the AMJ Management Research Canvas. And yes, the fact that it looks like a puzzle is completely intentional. It forces you to think about how every single piece of your study, from your big idea all the way down to your data analysis, actually connects. If one piece doesn't fit, the whole picture just falls apart. So let's break down how this canvas is actually built. It all revolves around 9 essential puzzle pieces. Each one represents a critical decision you have to make. Getting these 9 elements to lock together perfectly is the absolute key to a cohesive and powerful study. And we're going to start where they say you should start. Not at the beginning, but right in the middle. Now, this is what's so cool about this canvas. The center, the nucleus, isn't your research question. It's the puzzle. This goes all the way back to that grand challenge we talked about. It's the big unresolved problem your work is trying to shed light on. Every other piece on this canvas has to serve the purpose of solving this one central puzzle. From there, the first section is all about framing your study. This is where you establish the context. Who are you talking to? What big conversation are you joining? And then, critically, how do you take that giant central puzzle and distill it down into one sharp, focused research question that you can actually answer?
Next up is your theoretical framework. Think of this as the engine of your paper. This is where you lay out your core argument, defining your key ideas, and explaining the logic for how and why you think they're all connected. This piece of the puzzle explains the mechanism that's driving the whole mystery.
Then we have the third section, your methodology. This is all about demonstrating rigor and building trust with your reader. You have to clearly justify why you chose your research setting, and you have to prove that your design and your analysis are solid as a rock. And finally, you get to the payoff, the conclusions. But look, it's not enough to just list what you found. You have to explicitly spell out your contribution. How did you change the conversation? And you need to do that for both academics and for people in the real world, while also being honest about the limitations of your work. All right, so let's bring this all home. What we've seen is that getting published in a top journal isn't about luck. It's about having a system, a blueprint that guides you from that initial spark of an idea all the way to a paper that has a real impact. It really all boils down to this two-step process. Step 1, start by choosing a topic that is engineered from day one to actually matter. Use those 5 criteria to make sure it can genuinely change the conversation. And step 2, use the research canvas as your guide to build a study that's so logical and so tightly constructed that every single piece fits together perfectly. This blueprint really does provide a clear path from idea to publication. It's a system for developing research that doesn't just fill a tiny gap, but that truly makes a difference. And that just leaves us with the one big question you see on your screen now.